Once you know the basics of structuring an HTML document, it's a lot easier to begin writing and editing your own HTML. In this chapter, we're going to strip an HTML document down to its most basic parts so that we can focus on just the essentials of what makes up an HTML file. Now, before we do that, I want to show you a little something about looking through other HTML files out there on the web, because one of the best ways to learn about HTML is to see how other people are doing it. I have a page here opened in the browser, and one of the things that you can do, regardless of what browser you're using, you can always go and view the page source for a page. In this case, I'm in Firefox, so I'm just going to go up to the menu, and I'm going to go to Web Developer, and I'm going to say, show me the page source for that. So this is one way to do this, and the thing that I found about this over the years, especially when I was first starting to learn HTML, is that yes, I can sort of look at this, and I can kind of look at the page, but the problem is, it's very difficult for somebody that's new to HTML to understand what this is in relation to what they're seeing on the page. I want to show you perhaps an easier way of sort of correlating the visual elements on the page with the code that it represents. So I'm going to close that window. And I'm going to show you a little tool that Firefox has that pretty much all modern browsers have at this point. And it's the ability to inspect the page at sort of a granular level by looking at the code. Now in Firefox, this is called Firebug, and it's an add-on for Firefox. So if you have Firefox installed and you are using it and you don't see the little Firebug icon that I'm going to show you, simply go to add-ons and download it. But all of them have this type of functionality. Opera has Dragonfly, Chrome and Safari have WebKit, Web Inspector. Microsoft Internet Explorer has the developer tools built into it. So you'll always have access to this kind of functionality regardless of which browser you're using. So in Firefox, I'm just going to go over and hit this little Firebug icon over here. And when I do that, this little pane shows up at the bottom of the window. Now, there I can see the source code for this page, just as I was looking at a minute ago. It's collapsed at the moment, but I can open it up and take a look at all of the different elements of this. Now, what's really nice about this is I have this little feature right here, which is click an element to inspect the HTML. So if I select that tool, I can now move around the document, and as I move around the document and highlight different elements on the page, you can see it's going down there in the code, and it's showing me what I'm looking at. If there's a page that you want to learn from, or if there's something out there you're like, I wonder how they did that, or what code is used to represent this particular element or a particular structure, this is a very quick and easy way for you to do that. You can just pull up a browser, go into Firebug or WebKit Inspector or whatever, and then you can find exactly the code that you're looking for within the source code of the document. So definitely keep that in mind as you're learning HTML. I'm going to close this for a moment, and I'm going to go back into the editor that I'm using, which is the Komodo Edit Editor. And I've got a page opened up from our exercise files. In the 02_01 directory, I've opened up the structure.html file. Now, if you open that up in whatever editor you're using, the code's probably going to look a little bit different than mine does, and that's because I've modified the editor a little bit to collapse some of the code so that I'm looking at just the basic structure of the page. Don't worry about doing this yourself. Just follow along with me and take a look at the different elements. So really, HTML documents are made up of three major pieces. The first major piece is the HTML tag itself. If you don't have an HTML tag, you don't have an HTML document. So that's going to be the parent tag of the entire document itself. You'll have an opening tag, you'll have the rest of your HTML page, and at the very, very bottom of it, you'll have the closing HTML tag. Directly after the HTML tag comes the head of the document. And if I expand this out a little bit, inside the head, I've got more information about the file. So this could be meta information, the title of the page, links to external scripts. It's not necessarily visual information, but it's information that is relevant to the page and that's necessary for the page to function properly. So that's the head of the document. And again, you can see that section, the opening head tag and the closing head tag, and then its contents inside of it. And the last basic structural part to an HTML document would be the body itself. And if I open this tag up, you can see that inside the body, this is where all the visual content goes. So your headings, your paragraphs, your images, your tables, your lists, anything that you have inside the page that needs to be visible within the browser or the user agent is going to go inside that body element. That's really it. It can be very confusing when you open up a complex HTML page and you see all this content on the page, but if you can really sort of isolate it into those three things that, hey, I have an HTML tag surrounding all of this, and then inside that HTML tag, I have a head and I have a body. The head is where the information for the document goes and links to external resources, and the body is where the actual visual content goes. If you break it down into those three areas, it's a little easier to digest and a little easier to start thinking about structuring your own documents. Now that we've gone over the overall structure of the page, we need to focus on each area individually as we build them. We're going to start that in our next movie by discussing the one tag on the page here that I didn't talk about as we went over this, and that would be this one right here, the doc type declaration.